We are now nearing the end of the course. Of the Shema Yisrael prayer. We're working through it very carefully as we're building up our Hebrew word diaries. I think we're up to word number 36 in our Hebrew word diary, where we are building up words that we are understanding. We're understanding the root of the word. Then we are understanding what it means. After we understand what it means, we know how to read and understand what it means. We're then trying to go a little bit deeper into the meditation of that Hebrew word so that we can come across word families. We're actually building up word families so that we'll be able to really recognize the Hebrew words in the various places where they show up. You'll learn one word in the Shema, and as you learn that one word in the Shema, you'll notice that it comes up in many, many other places throughout the Torah, throughout davening, and even in regular Hebrew conversation in Israel. And you'll realize, wow, I know this. And that's what's happening as we build up our Hebrew word diaries. I just encourage you to take index cards and to write the Hebrew word on the one side and the English word on the other side so that you're able to understand and go through them multiple times a day. If you do go through them multiple times a day, what's going to happen is that you will eventually come to burn them into your memory, engrave them into your memory in a very beautiful way so that you are familiar with those words. And just like you're familiar with an English word, when you see the word Table, you know exactly what that is. So too, when you see the word Kuf Shin Reish, you'll know that means a knot. That means to connect. That means to telephone someone like we learned in our previous lesson. And I'm good to go because I know what that word means. By just repeating it over and over, we're up to 36 words in our Hebrew word diary. And we're on to our goal of 100 words. We are working through the Shema Yisrael prayer. If you have a prayer book, please open it up to page 42. If you don't have a prayer book, you can find it online at HebrewBooks.org/16091. That's HebrewBooks.org/16091. And you can turn to page 42, where right now we are near the bottom of the page. I think it's 4 lines from the bottom of the Shema, first paragraph of the Shema. And we're learning now the word yadecha. Ukshartam leot al yadcha. And you shall tie them as a sign. We learned those 2 words in the last lesson. And you shall tie them as a sign. Al yadecha, on your hand. Now the word al is ayin and lamed. We've learned this word before. It's like El Al. El Al Airlines, which is a beautiful name for an airline. El Al means to, up. Al means up or on. That's ayin lamed, means up or on. And el means to. So el al means to, up. A nice name for an airline. That's a short word. It's catchy. It's a nice name, el al. So al means on. It's a very common word. Certainly a word which you should be remembering. Let me see if it's in our word diaries. I'm curious to see if I did put it on our word diary. I can't remember. I'm not sure, but it's a good word to add. Al. I don't see it in our word diary here. No. We should probably add it because it's a preposition. Al means on. So we should probably add that word. It's ayin lamed. I don't have my cards with me right now, but it's an ayin and a lamed. If you're looking for the Hebrew, if you want to familiarize yourself with the Hebrew word or the Hebrew letters, you should download an app called RIIH on the Google Play Store or the App Store. RIIH will cost you $1.95, $99 maybe, and you can just review the Hebrew letters in a very cute way. It's a nice way to learn it. Sa'al, we should really make that word number 37 in our Hebrew word diary. It's a very straightforward word, but the word I would like to focus on today is yad. Yad, which means hand. Yad, yud and daled. It's a 2-letter word, which means a hand. Yad, yud and daled. The word comes up very, very frequently in our lexicon. You know, we say in there's a verse in Psalms that says, "If I forget thee, O Jerusalem, may my right hand forget its cunning." Im eshkachech Yerushalayim tishkach yemini. Obviously, our right hand is our right hand, right? He knows the map like the back of his hand, right? It's something which we're extremely familiar with. It's something which we're intuitively familiar with. So just like, when Steve Jobs was doing the iPhone, he was frustrated that they had a stylus to write with. He's like, why do you have to write with a pen? We should be able to write with your finger. Your finger comes to you into. So our right hand is something which we intuitively are familiar with. And just like I can't forget my right hand, so too, I dare not forget my connection to Jerusalem. But this word, yad, yud and daled, very powerful, very frequent word. Let's look at the applications of the word yad. Let's take a look at it. So first of all, ketav yad is the handwriting. Ketav means writing. So writing of yad, ketav yad means writing of the hand. That's handwriting. When you shake someone's hand, something you're not supposed to do today during Corona, is lechitzat yad. It's the squeezing of the hand. Lechitzat yad means a hand to shake, a handshake. More specifically in Hebrew, it's a hand squeeze, lechitzat yad. When somebody's rachav yad, it means that they're generous. Generous. Rachav yad means broad of hand. Rachav yad, that means generous. And kaf yad would be the palm of the hand. Kaf yad is the palm of the hand. In the verse, you'll see it frequently in the Torah, this word yad, often with a suffix, with a letter at the end to maybe give it possession. For example, when Abraham was bringing his son Isaac upon the altar, was raising him up upon the altar, in that difficult story of the binding of Isaac, it was the 10th test of Abraham. Abraham was never actually commanded to sacrifice his son upon the altar. He was only commanded to tie his son upon the altar. And the test was to see whether Abraham would go ahead with it or not. And he did, with alacrity. He passed the test with flying colors. So when Abraham had Isaac bound upon the altar, by the way, Isaac was 36 years old at the time. He was no baby. When he was up there on the altar, Abraham was preparing to slaughter his child because that's what God commanded him to do. An angel comes running out and he says, Vayomer, and he tells them, Al tishlach yadcha el anar. Don't send your hand to the lad. Ve'al ta'as lo me'uma, and don't do anything to him. Al tishlach yadcha, do not send your hand to the lad. Your hand, withhold your hand. This word, once again, it's just a little example of how this word comes up in our regular Torah reading. I mean, it's just Torah reading. You look at this word, you say yad. Yad means a hand. And now we know, don't throw your hand. Don't send your hand. Don't touch him. Don't touch the lad. In fact, Rabbi Lau, who's the former chief rabbi of Israel, a very beautiful orator. He was a survivor of Buchenwald. He lost his mother. Last time he saw his mother was when his mother pushed him away in Buchenwald. And she said, go away from me, I don't want to see you again. And indeed, she never saw him again. It was very painful for an 8-year-old child to understand this. But she was saving him by pushing him away at Buchenwald. And he wrote a book called Al Tishlach Yadcha El Anar. Don't send your hand to the boy. It was about his story, about the boy who lost his family, who lost his world, who lost his mother at the concentration camps. A beautiful, beautiful piece of writing. I see Kobe is writing over here in the comments, hand and name, Yad Vashem. So Yad Vashem, you surely have heard of Yad Vashem, which is the world's most famous Holocaust Memorial Museum. It's in Yerushalayim, $100 million Holocaust museum, utterly haunting and beautiful and painful all at the same time. Very difficult experience to go through there because you really sense the Holocaust. They did a very good job. It's called Yad Vashem. What does Yad Vashem mean? Literally, it translates as a hand and a name. A hand and a name. What does it mean, a hand and a name? So Kobe's explaining it means never forget. It's like meant to mean a memorial. It's like a reminder that you'll never forget. But it actually comes from a verse in the Torah where the son of David, I think it was Avshalom, who died without children, and they made for him a Yad Vashem, a hand and a name they made for him. They made him a memorial. In fact, he's buried right there outside of the Temple Mount, in the valley next to Zechariah the prophet, is the Yad Yad Avshalom, it's called the hand of Avshalom because it's like a hand, it's a memorial. I'm not sure why the memorial is called a hand. I can understand the second word, Shem. Shem means a name. You're making a name for someone. It's like when you name a building. You name a building, you name a book, you name a program after someone, you're giving them a memorial. But when you give a hand, I'm not sure. Maybe a hand is like something outside of yourself, which is a part of yourself. Maybe that's what it means. Just like a hand is outside of yourself, it's an extension of you. That's probably what it means. So too, when you make a memorial for someone, you're making them a hand. That's like an extension of them. It's a reaching out of theirs. It's a hand and a name. So there you go. So the yad means a memorial. Good point there, Kobe. Thank you for sharing that. We say about Ishmael, it says in the Torah that Abraham was concerned about Ishmael. His behavior was inappropriate. This is the father of the Arabs. And God tells him, Yado bakol v'yad kol bo. It says, Hu yeh per adam. You'll be a wild man. He'll be a wild man. The Ishmaelites, the Arabs will be wild. Yado bakol, his hand will be in everyone. V'yad kol bo, and the hand of everyone will be in him. If you think about it in terms of oil. God was saying his hand is going to be in everything. The oil that the Arabs seem to have is everywhere. Everybody has oil, and oil is in everything. So it's interesting. That's my interpretation of what that means. But once again, you see in the verse the word yad. Yad means a hand. His hand is in everything, and the hand of everything is in him. When something is handmade, we say it's melechet yad. It's work of a hand. And what happens when you wash your hands for bread? It's called al netilat yadayim. Yadayim is the plural of yad. Al netilat yadayim, on the raising or on the elevating of the hands. So all these words show you it's all the same word coming up in so many different places that we are very familiar with them. Where you see the word coming up, a watch in Hebrew is called sha'on yad, a hand watch, a wrist watch. In English, a wrist watch. In Hebrew, it's called sha'on yad, a watch of the hand. It's interesting. It's called a sha'on yad, a watch of the hand, and not a watch of the wrist. It almost seems that in English it's more appropriate because it really is not in the hand; it's on the wrist. Maybe it could have been on the arm. I'm not sure which part of if this qualifies as the hand or the arm. But in Hebrew, it's called sha'on yad, a hand watch. And when somebody has two left hands, in Hebrew, you'll say shtei yadayim smoliot. He's got two left hands, shtei yadayim smoliot. And what do we say when you come out of Egypt? When we read the Haggadah and we say in the Haggadah that God took us out of Egypt with an outstretched hand, we say biyad chazaka. Biyad chazaka uvizro'a netuya, which means with a strong hand and an outstretched arm. That's what we read in the Haggadah, that God had a strong hand and an outstretched arm. It's yad chazaka. It's interesting, Maimonides, who wrote the commentary, the encyclopedia of the Torah, it was the first one ever to take the Torah, which is all over the place. The laws of Torah spread out everywhere. It's like an ocean. And he classified the ocean of Torah into clearly defined volumes, like an encyclopedia, 14 volumes. And he called his 14-volume Magnus Opus. He called it the Yad HaChazaka, the strong hand, a reference to the biblical exodus from Egypt, which was with a strong hand. Why did he call it a strong hand? Because remember, in Hebrew, every word, every letter has a mathematical value. It's not just a sound, it's also a value. It's an absolute value. So the word yad is made up of two letters, the yud and the daled. The yud has the numerical value of 10, and the yad, the daled, the fourth letter, is 4. So the yud is the 10th letter, the daled is the 4th letter. 10 plus 4 is 14. So yad is 14. So yad hachazaka means the strong 14, a reference, like a veiled reference to the 14 volumes encyclopedia, which Maimonides put into the entire Torah. And he classified the Torah into 14 volumes. And of course, into the fact that the Torah is the strong hand, which is the secret to our survival. When we study Torah, Istakel be'oraita ovara alma, I wrote an email about this on Friday, that God looked into the Torah and he created the world, that the Torah is the blueprint of creation. It's the DNA of the universe. Torah is the HTML source code of the world. When we study Torah, then everything in the world unfolds properly. When we neglect the study of Torah, then everything implodes. This is what happened when the Jews were attacked by the nation of Amalek. It says they were attacked by Amalek because there was a chink. There was I don't know how to pronounce that word. There was a hole in their armor because they neglected the study of Torah. When you neglect the study of Torah, that's when you're vulnerable to attack. When you are strong in the study of Torah, that's when your defense is strong, which is why when we announced the quarantine, I think it was March 15th on a Sunday night, we announced that we were closing our shul for services. It was the very next morning that we opened online Torah study on YouTube and Facebook, because we needed to strengthen the study of Torah to serve as a protection. And that's the reason why Maimonides says, Yad HaChazaka, the mighty arm, the mighty hand, which is the Torah, the 14 volumes of Torah, because Torah is a mighty hand. It is what protects us, like a fist. Like, I guess, what do they call those fists? Knuckle. When the hooligans when they punch with those knuckle busters, whatever they're called, iron knuckles. That's what protects you. When you're in trouble and you got a strong fist, you can protect yourself. It's like our tank. It's our fighter jet, is the study of Torah. So that's really the meditation here. When you think about the word yad, you can think of the word 14, which is the encyclopedia of Torah, which is that the Torah is our hand. The Torah is our fist. The Torah is our protector. The Torah is 14 volumes, and our fist is 14, because the Torah is what protects us from all harm. That is the meditation of our defense. I see Andy's asking a question. Some tombstones have a hand on them. Is that from the Yad Vashem derivation? I believe not, Andy. I believe that the reason that those tombstones have a hand on them is because it's a sign that there lies buried a Kohen. And the Kohanim, one of the symbols of the Kohanim is they put up their hands like this, in the V shape of both hands, because that's how they bless the people. It is this, from last week's Torah portion we read about in the Torah just this past Shabbos, the priestly blessing, which the priests, the Kohanim, were endowed with the power to bless the Jewish people. Why they specifically were endowed with this power is a very beautiful reason, maybe beyond the pale of this conversation, but it is the priests that bless the people with their hands, and that's why one of the traditional signs to put on the tomb of a Kohen is a hand. Got it? Any other questions coming in? Let's see. Oh, brass knuckles, Mickey, that's what it's called. I'd like to welcome Whitney from Amsterdam. Whitney, who's recently joined our Torah study sessions from Amsterdam. Good to have you with us. And yeah, I'm glad you got that. And any other comments coming in? Thank you, Elaine, as well, for the brass knuckles. And that's it. So with that, I think that I'm going to call it a day over here. And would love to hear your feedback on how we're doing on the meditation and prayer classes. You may have noticed that I've evolved them a little bit. Would love to hear your feedback on the meditation and prayer classes. Please send me an email to rabbi@jewishgardens.com. That's rabbi@jewishgardens.com. Would love to hear feedback on all the classes in general. Send me your questions, comments, or critique. Don't forget that on Thursday at 2:45 p.m., Chana and I both are doing another AMA session, Ask Me Anything. AMA stands for Ask Me Anything. Please send us our questions. It makes them much more fun when we have your questions in advance, so we can plan and strategize a sequence for the show, so we don't have to, fumble through looking for questions. We know what we're coming into the show with, so please send us your questions to rabbi@jewishgardens.com for the AMA Ask Me Anything presentation on YouTube and Facebook that's taking place on Thursday at 2:45 p.m. Also today at 11:30 is Corey Nadel's class on Tehillim and Torah reading. That's King David Psalms and Tehillim. It's on Zoom. And beyond that, I want to wish everybody a wonderful day. Over and out. Yom Tov. Thank you for joining me here today.